Alright, this video is way past time to come out. The holidays and everything else has been putting this on the back burner for too long. I'm gonna knock out 2 chapters in one video and get Earl to use his magical editing powers to get this video out, even though I told myself I would still handle editing the series in the new year. Well, I also told myself that I'd be going to the gym more often in the new year too, and that hasn't happened yet either. A really great start to the new year, Moon. Anyway, we have 2 chapters to get through, so let's get right into it so this isn't a half-hour long video. I'm Moonlight150, supporting the series good, not supporting the series not good. Got it? Let's go. Back in November, we got Chapter 6, So How's Our Fashion? Which has us now finally in the weekend. Which, yeah, if you've been paying attention at home, the entirety of this manga so far has only been 1 week. What a wild, life-changing week it has been for you so far. The Karins have invited you over to their magical growing house for a home date. But before that, time for a quickie flashback. At school, Shaika admits to you that she's been having a hard time being around the other Karins, as it seems her super introverted personality doesn't handle the extrovertedness of the other two, as demonstrated when Himika and Galka show up and immediately jump you for some affection time. But as we established in the previous chapter, Shaika wishes to better herself in this regard and asks you for help. Excited to be of assistance to a Karin, Yu goes full throttle with a strategy to do just that. And that's how we find ourselves with the home date, where Yu gives Renter a run for his money by going on lovingly long descriptions of all the Karin's outfits and what he loves about them. I won't go deep into them because we have no time, but you can read them for yourselves by going to where you can read the chapters. But I do want to point out that my man Yu seems to be a big fan of shoulders and clavicles. Whatever floats your boat, my guy. And I love Shaika's little victory pose in celebrating that she got complimented by Yu. Her little yay is so cute. They head off to hang out in Galka's room, and how do we know it's Galka's? Because of the guitar he hears in the corner that she made the terrible pun about in a previous chapter. Also, I want to mention just how giant this room is. Perks of having a magically expanding house, I guess. The Karins ask if it's cool that they spend their first day just hanging out at home, where poor naive Yu nonchalantly drops a double entendre, suggesting it would be fun to just kick back and fool around at her house. Which Yu is completely unaware of what he just said, but Himika and Galka sure picked up a different meaning and got all hot and bothered by it. I'm so neck deep in 100 Girlfriends that I sometimes get caught off guard just how suggestive this series can get in comparison. Noticing the mood change with Himika and Galka, Yu worries he might have said something weird, but it turns out his intention of staying at home for the date would be easier for Shaika to handle. Alas, the date starts, and like any good date, it starts with video games. And if we get Earl to zoom in real tight on this panel, it seems they are playing what seems to be GoldenEye? Or some kind of team-based first-person shooter that leads to an explosion blowing Himika and Shaika away. Then it's movie time, and it looks to be some gory action flick as we see blood splatter all over the place, and Galka gets super into it. She's a movie and video game fan? I knew Galka was the best one of the bunch. Then after the movie, it's time for a round of chatting, and as those 3 yap away, Shaika is having a mild panic attack of not knowing how to handle the situation. An introvert's worst nightmare. As Galka and Himika excuse themselves from the room, just in time for Shaika to collapse from mental exhaustion of trying to interact with the other Karins, where we then see her point of view of the 2 of them, and boy doesn't this shot look familiar. After a bit of a pity party, Shaika looks to be giving up on trying to get along with the other Karins, but Yu promises to come up with another idea after a quick stop to the restroom, only to find the other 2 sitting outside the room exhausted themselves, as they too seem to have pushed themselves to the limits in trying to make everything work, and they quickly turn to Yu for suggestions on what to do, only for Yu to pull out the only thing he could think of and have everyone dress up like stuffed toys. I think there might be a knitter down the street we can call upon for that. But Yu explains that that method seems to be effective when trying to talk with Shaika, which doesn't seem to be as crazy as one would think, as they recall that Shaika does seem more comfortable talking with stuffed toys than anything else. So the 2 run off and grab some stuffed animals and some animal ears themselves. Turns out they have all the same stuffed toy as they got it back when they were first with Yu. So much like everything else from back then, every Karin has a version of it, which then makes Yu break down in tears for the sedimentary value those stuffed animals have. Now with all the Karins equipped with stuffed toys and animal ears, they begin round 4 of the date and try to finally fully involve Shaika into the conversation. After a small squabble on how the animals talk, and I love Galka's sass here with the "That's just how you talk, honey," Shaika finally feels at ease with everyone, after conveying that not only herself, but the stuffed toy had felt lonely because it's older and has been long since discontinued, and now there are 3 of them, and notices how even though they are the same toy, they feel different coming from different Karins. A nice little on-the-nose comparison to the Karins themselves. And Yu just adds in, much like the Karins themselves, the toys are all cuter together. And with that, Shaika decides to fully commit to trying to come out of her shell, and apologizes to the other Karins and makes the next step forward in openly admitting wanting to get along with everyone, which doesn't even faze the other 2 as they all embrace each other, or I guess mainly Galka saying they can all just become friends. And Yu just breaks down in tears from all the cuteness and they go into pet Shaika like the cute little animal that she is. But that's a bit too far and tells them that they should pet the stuffed toys instead. After now finally learning how to properly get along and switching from GoldenEye to Smash Brothers it seems, on that very obvious Nintendo Switch, Galka blurts out Kumaka, saying that is her new nickname because of the bear ears, and that she is always... Galka blurts out Kumaka, saying that is her new nickname because of the bear ears that she is always wearing, and Galka blurts out Kumaka, saying that is her new nickname because of the bear ears, and that she is... Yeah, why can't I say this line? Galka blurts out Kumaka, saying that is... Galka blurts out Kumaka, saying that is her new nickname because of the bear ears that she's always wearing.
It's just, for me, I can't do it.
You can! You can do it, you can!
Galka blurts out Kumaka, saying that is her new nickname because of the bear ears that she's always wearing, plus the stuff toy. Yeah.
You will not lick me!
Galka blurts out Kumaka, saying that is her new nickname because of the bear ears that she's always wearing, plus the stuffed toy that she has with her at all times. Nailed it. Wait a minute, I read the chapter and wrote this... Wait a minute, I read the chapter and wrote this script in...
Here we go again.
Wait a minute, I read the chapter and wrote this script and recorded the audio saying Shaika everywhere. Okay, well, I'm not fixing that in post. Let's roll with it. After seeing Himika and Galka get all lovey-dovey on you, Kumaka asks them if they are all dating you, to which they all smugly say yes to Yu's embarrassment, and takes the opportunity to learn from the other Karins and jumps on you herself and asks for you to date her too, which has you speak only in emoji, somehow. Guess he learned that from Kitagawa. Later that night with Yu on his own reminiscing about Kumaka, he notices that his dad has left the TV on when his phone begins to ring. Also, I love this self-reflective monologue of his of who would be calling him. Obviously it's only gonna be a Karin. Get some friends, dude. But as he answers the phone, he realizes that another Karin has appeared and is making news headlines as a brand new upcoming high school idol. That's what the other Karins were calling him about. Normally I'd take this part of the video to discuss how this Karin is vastly different from the other ones that we got from the initial art, and speculate on what's happening. But instead we're gonna jump right into the chapter after a word from our sponsor. Now we're into the meat of this video, a new Karin. Chapter 6 was fun and great for some Kumaka development, but there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. But now with a new Karin, we're cooking. We're back to the formula as the new Karin, the social media idol, introduces herself to the class. And as you would expect, everyone else is fawning over having a local celebrity join their class. All while Yu is freaking out at just how different this Karin is to the rest, especially Kumaka. We learned that new Karin here apparently danced in front of the train station for hours on end. Anything for those clicks and views, am I right? Clever segue to remind you to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. It's a new year and I got a lot of plans. Wink.
He's cooking.
As Yu does research on his phone because following the rules of this series, she should have only started existing within this reality only yesterday. But there's no time for trying to explain lore and reasoning as fellow classmates ask her to do her dance, which she happily does, but ends up tumbling flat on her face in the process. But being the embodiment of confidence that she is, she gets right back up like nothing was wrong. Hell, she may have even planned that faceplant. She didn't. A real fake it till you make it attitude. As Yu notices that the other Karins aren't in class yet, the new Karin... Okay, I need to give her a nickname. I want to stop writing new Karin. I'm going to assume this is Sunka from the artwork given her designs and personality. So until we get her name, this is Sunka. Sunka comes up to Yu's desk to introduce herself. And unlike the past Karins, this one doesn't play coy and directly talks to Yu with the whole long time no see, then invites herself to have Yu show her around the school, pretty much backing him into a corner to do so. But Yu is saved by the bell, literally, as Sunka takes off for class. Yu is just left stunned at how hard he fumbled that interaction, and not being able to get over just how different this Karin is from the others. But his inner monologue is interrupted as a classmate turns around basically giving Yu props for getting the attention of another classmate. Gotta love the humor of this series with the absurdity that this charm's magic makes it so others don't notice the oddity that all these girls have the exact same name and look very similar. Like this guy straight up just says, you get to pal around with Machihashi, Machihashi, and Machihashi, and also Machihashi, with no self-reflection that he just said the same name 4 times. The class then begins to talk about how there's a cultural festival coming up, like every goddamn rom-com set in school, but Sunka learns that they are taking volunteers to do shows, which she is all for as it gets more eyes on her. Class lets out and Sunka bolts straight for Yu and demands to be shown around the school, trying to get out of it saying there should be someone else who can do it, but nope, she wants him and him alone. Does this count as a confession? I think in any other series it would be. But the class suddenly turns as they notice how casual those two are being with one another, and ask if they are childhood friends, which is really the only explanation in Japanese media, huh? But before he can give a response, Yu dashes off. As Yu monologues about his sudden change in lifestyle from talking to no one to suddenly multiple Karins, he finds himself thinking smugly about how lucky he has at having those Karins around, until another one pops up right in front of him, sending him flying back from shock. Until she straight up just gets on top of him. No joke, we don't see her other leg here, so it's gotta be on the other side of him. She is literally sitting on him. And this is her first chapter. We had to wait 10 episodes for that to happen in my dress up, darling. This is new unfounded breakneck speeds. But all she wants to do is be friends like old times. I mean, I guess that's not so bad. Maybe I jumped to conclusions about her. Jesus!
Mom, can you pick me up? I'm scared.
So yeah, in this horrifying image, Tsuka really is taking the wheel of this friendship, driving home the fact that Yu can't really do anything on his own and that she's here to help. So not tsundere, but yandere. Yanka? Yankee? Sounds too weird. Gonna go with Tsuka still. But as Yu is about to shake hands and make a deal with the devil, the other Karens finally show up to school to put a stop to what was going on, and say that this Karen is bad news. Also, I love the faces Galka makes in this series. She really is best girl. And Tsuka calls them out as phony Karens, to where Yu asks what is going on. Turns out they met and interacted last night. Cue the flashback. The Karens gathered around the dinner table to get Tsuka up to speed, and we learned apparently regarding the whole timeline thing, in her version of reality, she went out to do her dancing publicity stunt and came back to her house being bigger and filled with other Karens. At least this Karen is giving us lore to work with, not to mention our first look at the actual house itself. Its chapter 7 in the ever-growing house has been mentioned multiple times, and we're just now seeing it from the outside. And I'm gonna guess it doesn't normally have 3 stories in a residential area in Japan. But as the Karens are about to explain to Tsuka about Yu, she cuts them off saying they are cramping her style, and then proceeds to call out the other Karens on their bad traits, like how Himika has a lazy attitude, how Galka assumes everything will just work out, and how Kumika has no confidence. And with that, Tsuka performs a 3-way knockout on all of the other Karens' morale. The other Karens are kind of in awe of Tsuka and her resounding confidence, and apparently that verbal beating was enough to make them very late to school. But with that now behind them, Galka is eager to move on and have everyone get along. But Tsuka smacks her hand away in disrespect to the shock of everyone. Yu tries to stand up for his girlfriends, and this is where Tsuka finally learns that he is dating all 3 of them, and as she puts it, those mediocre rip-offs of her, and begins to cry at the realization. But in that crying, she proposes a challenge to see who deserves Yu, and that they will be using the cultural festival to do so. By her rules of whoever makes the biggest splash at the culture festival, whatever that means, and Yu will be judging.
You. No, not me, you.
Yes, you.
And whoever wins gets to be with Yu.
No, not me, you.
And if Tsuka wins, she wants the others to stay away from him. But before Yu could retaliate, Galka steps in and accepts those conditions with her unconditional optimism. And we leave it there at the end of the chapter with a battle of the Karens looming. So there's a lot to go over here, mainly with Tsuka herself. It's never outright said, so that leaves a lot to theorize about, but I'm going to and guess that this is Karen's obsessive side, or perfectionist side, or something along those lines. And with that, I think I can predict how this little arc is going to fold out. I've been wrong before on this channel, but hey, what's the fun in not guessing? The biggest clues come from how she is treating the other Karens, like how she sees them as lesser versions of her, particularly about pointing out their flaws, like how Himika is lazy, Galka is optimistic to an unrealistic degree, and especially Kumika, who has no confidence and self-loathing. That one she seems outright disgusted by. Not to mention how she wasn't even flustered or taken aback by meeting Yu again after 10 years, like how the other Karens were. My guess is that after that summer that Karen and Yu spent together, she became obsessed. And that was her catalyst. Much like how with Kumika's story about overhearing those classmates talk behind her back made her lose trust in people, this is why we saw her cry when she realized these so-called lesser versions of herself are dating Yu and not her. Even though she put in the hard work to be popular and be perfect for him, a version of Karen without flaws. Also, like I said, how confident she was with confronting Yu again after so long without a single stumble, and instead made Yu stumble. That is the result of spending time fantasizing about that moment in your head for years, practicing in the mirror what you're going to say and do and all that. Or the fact once they face each other again, she gets on top of him without a single shred of anxiousness or nervousness. She has been waiting for this moment for 10 years. That's what being a beacon of confidence does to a person. We can even trace this back to her first appearance. The fact she made herself a public figure and did that stunt of dancing in front of the train station was to make sure Yu eventually found her by getting herself and her name out in public online. You see where I'm going with this? It's not outright said, but it probably will be in the coming chapters, that everything we have seen about this version of Karen is a result of her obsessing over being the perfect Karen for Yu. So how do I see the next chapter or 2 playing out? At the cultural festival, they will have their little competition, and since Yu was declared the judge, He will refuse to choose a winner since all he cares about is making Karen happy, or he might even choose the 3 he's already dating to get a point across. That even though these 3 Karens are flawed, they are perfect in his eyes, which will break Tsuka. 10 years of working and perfecting yourself to only lose to lesser flawed versions of yourself. But in this break of hers, you will comfort her and tell her that he loves this version of Karen too, and whatever positive traits she exhibits, like her confidence or hard work ethic or dedication, which will make her soften up and accept the other Karens and they will all start to get along, but probably have a comedic friendly rivalry going forward, particularly with Galka, because old habits die hard. And then she will scale down her over-the-top design that we have here, and then become the version of Tsuka that we see in the art. What do you guys think? Is this another one of my predictions destined to fail? How do you see this arc wrapping up? Leave those comments down below. And now that I'm caught up on this series and with Earl, the editor, on board, I'm gonna try to get these out at regular intervals instead of being a month behind in posting them like I have been. Hope you all join me in seeing where this series goes in 2025 by subscribing to see, along with all the other content I have planned for this year on this channel. I've been Moonlight150, and I will see you all on the next video.